Welcome everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you have joined from. Today, we'll be talking about two domains, and I'll talk about what these domains are and why am I talking about these domains. Basically, the whole idea is that this week, our objective is to help you understand the predictive approach in its full. Okay, I had shared one PDF around 100 pages as a summary of the traditional approach. Okay, I hope you have gone through it. If not, then just please try to finish it. Okay, you all you need to do is have a look at it, read it, understand whatever is written, and if you don't understand anything, highlight it, and let's connect for a discussion. Okay, that's what you need to do. Apart from that, we'll be meeting these 4 days also: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, where we'll cover the 7 domains that PMI talks about in PMBOK 8th edition. Okay, 8th edition was released last year around November, right? They talk about 7 performance domains. So we'll be covering all those domains one by one, especially looking at it from the PMP exams perspective. Okay, PMBOK 8 or PMBOK book, any book, is not for PMP, it's for project management. Right? But we will be looking at those aspects from the PMP angle. What type of questions can be asked? What should we keep in mind? What those domains are, so that you are able to answer the questions from those domains. Whether you study from the domains perspective, focus area, process group perspective, you look at it differently, it doesn't matter. As long as you understand how a predictive approach project is managed, what are the sequence in which the work happens, and what type of questions you might see in the exam, your job is done. So whether you call it performance domains, focus areas separately, you talk about process groups, you talk about knowledge areas, which was being discussed earlier before 2021, your preparation wouldn't get affected. As long as you, as I said, you understand predictive approach or traditional approach from start to finish, what happens. So sequence of activities will be tested. There's no fixed sequence that I could give you and you say that, okay, I'll understand that and I'll move ahead. It is to be applied logically. Okay. And that's what we will help you with in these 4 sessions that we will have. Second is what type of questions will be asked in the exam and what should be the mindset while answering these questions. See, predictive approach is different from adaptive approach. Predictive approach is more process oriented, structure oriented. You would use a lot of tools, you would use a lot of structure, you do a lot of I would say flow of activities, algorithms, and other parts to understand how to run this project. Adaptive is a little bit different. You discuss, you solve the problem. It is more action oriented. Predictive is more plan oriented. Okay. So, what would be that mindset that would help you solve these questions is what we are going to help you with in these 4 days. It's not that you are going to see anything new. You are only looking at the things from a different angle. Okay, and when you look at the same thing from different angles, you understand the concept a little bit better. That's why we are covering these revision sessions, 4 sessions. Every day we'll cover 2 domains, right? So 3 days, 6 domains, and on the fourth day we'll cover one domain, which is risk. I'll explain all those 7 domains, and hopefully it will help you revise the uh, all the domains part, whatever is needed for the exam. Second part, there was a test given to all of you, and you would have taken that test on traditional approach, 120 questions to be answered in 150 minutes. Those who have not taken, please take it, okay, because it helps me in understanding your performance. It helps me in understanding what your scores are, okay, so that I can create some specific revision sessions based on your performance. That is one part. Second part is that whenever you take this test, you would have some doubts. You can go through the explanations given in the question. It will clarify most of your doubts, but there will still be some doubts where you would think, okay, I think this is correct. Why is the answer C while I think it is B? Explanation is there, but it is not clear. You have some doubts. For that, let us connect for a one-to-one discussion. Just let me know one day in advance when do you want to connect. We will connect, we'll discuss, and I'll try to understand uh, where your thinking might be wrong. I would not say wrong, but needs to be strengthened. Okay, I'll be able to identify the gaps. I'll be able to identify the way you are thinking about the exam, and I can help you with some specific resources to improve those scores. Right? So, 2 things: take the test so that I understand in general what is happening, and one-to-one specifically as well, where you can tell me that, yeah, okay, these are the questions that I have doubt with. You will connect on a Zoom call, you will share your screen, we'll go through it, and I'll help you overcome those doubts. You only need two or three such discussions with me, and you'll be prepared for the exam. All right. For now, for today, let us start with discussion on governance and scope for PMP exam. It will be a revision of all the things that we have covered during the training. We'll have a different look at the same thing in a different angle, well, specifically focusing on PMP exam. It will help you in building that confidence that you need. Okay. Ready to start? Shall we start? Quick confirmation, please, everybody. You can see the screen. The audio is fine. Video is okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I can see a lot of thumbs up. Perfect. Again, at any point of time, if you have any doubts, you want to discuss anything, you can always raise hand as a feature in Zoom, or you can just put your comment on the comment box or the chat box. We'll have a discussion. Perfect. So as we discussed, what is the objective? First, to help you understand, or I can say revisit, the predictive approach of project management, how a project is managed using predictive approach. Second, we'll also discuss the processes in all seven performance domains. Right? There are seven performance domains that PMBOK 8 talks about. We'll go through all those seven domains in the next 4 days. Ultimately, the objective is to help you feel confident about traditional approach for PMP exam. That's our focus. Okay, so these are the seven domains. One is governance. Governance basically is how your organization is structured, what part of role project management would play in that organization, how do you interact with other elements of organization. For example, how do you interact with HR, how do you interact with finance, how do you interact with functional teams, how do you interact with management, what type of roles they play in your project. It's more about that governing framework within which we have to manage the project. Every project is unique. Every organization is also unique. Every organization, all of your organizations have a unique way of running the project, running their own business, right? What part does project play and what all things do we need to take care of is the part of governance as a domain. Second is scope. For project managers, I don't think scope needs to be explained to anybody, but the scope is basically the work that you deliver. It's not the activity that you do. It's not the task that you carry out. It's not the scheduling that you do that, okay, this is when it will happen. But the work that you deliver. For example, in a construction project, you would be delivering the entire building. In a software, there will be a software application that you will deliver. Within that, you will have multiple features. You will have multiple deliverables. Right? Put them all together, that becomes a part of your scope. So how do you understand what is to be delivered? And how do you ensure that it is delivered exactly as per the expectations is a part of your scope performance domain. You understand that well, you will be performing better in the scope area. Then we have schedule where we talk about the timelines. What should be delivered is a part of scope. When should it be delivered is a part of your schedule. You can divide a project into multiple phases. You can have your own milestones decided. You can say that, okay, this is what we are going to run the show. This is how we will be doing it. All those will be part of your schedule. What you will be delivering as a part of scope and when it will be delivered is a part of your schedule. Then comes the part of finance where you talk about money. Right? How much money would be needed to deliver these things at this particular time? Right? So money is a function of what you are going to do and when you are going to do it. If you need it faster, you need more people, more money. If there's a time and you can delay it or you can deliver the things a little bit later, right, you will need less money. So money is basically a function of the efforts that you take, and efforts would be a part of what you have to deliver and when you have to deliver. That's what finance management is in part of project management. So project finance is all about managing the committed financial resources. Right? So first you will need to understand how much money I would need in the project. Then you would ensure that whatever I have committed to, I'm ensuring that I'm spending exactly that much amount within of a range, of course, of plus minus 5%, 10%. Right? We cannot be exact $1 million and 450,000 and $576, right? We cannot do that. So within a given range of plus minus 10%, you should be able to manage your budget in the project. That's what finance talks about, right? Then we have stakeholder as a performance domain. As you would already know, everybody is a stakeholder in the project. Your team, your management, your customers, your suppliers, your competitors, a government body, you yourself, everybody is a stakeholder in the project. You can think of a person, probably they will be a stakeholder. Why? Because they hold some stake in your project. Either they're getting impacted by the project or they could impact the project. Either way, they are stakeholders. So, how do you handle them? Handling is a bad word. How do you engage with them? Right? So, who the stakeholders are, what are their role in terms of the project, what type of impact, influence, power do they have, which will help you in designing your engagement with them. Engagement basically means communication, showing the product, demonstration, and everything, so that you can understand what they need, you can understand what role they play in the project, and you can plan accordingly. That yes, with this person, we need to meet weekly. This person should be available daily. This person, we just need to share high level information monthly, right? So how do you engage with stakeholders? You can plan, you can design that whole solution if you handle the stakeholder performance domain well. Then comes the part of your resources, right? Don't think resources as only your people in that or your team, right? Team plus physical resources, the laptops, the tools, that the equipments that you will need in the project, both are part of your resources, right? So how do you manage those? How do you ensure that these resources are utilized in the best way possible? That's your role as a project manager, right? Team members as a part of resource, how would you utilize them the best? Physical resources, equipments, tools, machines, how you utilize the best? It should be productive, it should be efficient, and in the minimum cost possible, in the minimum risk possible, you should be able to handle your manage your project, right? That is the part of resource as a performance domain. Then the seventh one, the last one, is risk. Risk is basically uncertainty, right? Now this is a part of project when things are not clear, right? Although we study a lot about uncertainty to in agile approach, but you all are project managers, you all have been part of projects, you all have seen projects happening, and you know that it is uncertainty is not only related to agile or adaptive projects. In construction there are uncertainties, in mechanical manufacturing there are uncertainties. So uncertainties is a characteristics of every single project. You have to anticipate what might happen in the future and be prepared for it, right? Whatever you will anticipate, you will not be able to anticipate everything. So there will be something which will go beyond your imagination, beyond your understanding, beyond your analysis. Those problems will be solved separately, and those which you can anticipate would be solved separately. That is the part of risk performance domain. Basically, how do you solve problems? Those that you can think of, those that you cannot think of. That's your performance domain in risk. So PMI says that if you have a good, solid understanding and working level understanding of these performance domain, you are a good project manager. Right? Governance, how do you interact with organization? Scope, what is to be delivered? Schedule, when it will be delivered. Finance, how much money would be needed to deliver that? Stakeholders, who are the people who are going to support us and help us in the project? Resources, what are we going to use in terms of team and physical resources, and what type of problems we might face in the project and how would we handle it? If you understand these seven things in any project, you will be able to manage the projects successfully. Okay, is this part clear, everybody? Any doubts, anything that you are confused with? Why this, why that? Yes, Mansi, please go ahead.
So these performance domains can be used in means we use in agile as well as predictive, right?
Yeah. So the whole idea, because of which PMI moved from knowledge area to performance domain. Earlier, 5, 6 years ago, they used to talk about knowledge areas. Okay. Now, what used to happen with knowledge area is that they will talk about processes and people will look at it and they will say, okay, these are the processes to be followed. So, project managers, project professionals looked at PMBOK knowledge areas as something which is prescribing what is to be done. That, okay, this is what is to be done, I'll follow it. I'll look at the book and I'll follow in the project. But every project is unique. You just cannot do this. That, okay, I'll look at this and if I do this, my project will be successful. All of you are professional and you know this. You just cannot read a book, follow it, and your project will be successful. So this is why they changed from knowledge areas to performance domain with a very important focus that we are not prescribing anything. So PMI is saying that we are not prescribing anything. We are just telling you that these are the areas important for project manager where you need to focus. You should know your responsibility and you should be able to manage these areas well for both predictive and adaptive approaches. So answer to your question is yes, it is applicable for both predictive and adaptive approaches. For now, for these 4 days that we will meet, we will be talking about predictive approaches. Next week, we will talk about agile, which is adaptive approaches.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Great question. Thanks so much. Any other question, anyone? Okay. If not, then let's move ahead. Right. So how are we going to run this revision session? Today, we'll be covering governance and scope. Tomorrow, we'll talk about schedule and finance. Thursday, we'll talk about stakeholder and resources, which is basically people. And then we'll talk about the risks on Friday. Let us start with governance first. Right. So what are basically performance domain? Okay, so when PMI says that we are talking about performance domains, there are 7 domains that you should know of. What does it mean? It basically means that you carry out some activities in project, right? If you note down or write down all the best practices of project management, you can combine multiple activities and you'll say, okay, this is a part of the process. For example, let us say that you are starting the project, okay, and you are creating a project charter. So there are multiple activities that you can carry out to create project charter. Discuss with management, go through the contract, go through the order that you have received, purchase order that you might have received, talk to customers, talk to some key members, and understand why we are doing the project, what the objective are, and at a major level, what are the scope, schedule, cost, and risk. Right? So you are creating a project charter, you would be carrying out, let us say, assuming 70, 80 activities that you will be carrying out in the project. When you combine all those activities together, right, you can call it a process. Saying create project charter is one of our process, where we have around 70 to 80 similar activities. Now, you don't have to memorize these 70, 80 activities. Okay, I've just given you some example. Okay, these are the things that we will do. However, you should know that, okay, this is the process that we are carrying out. And you should have a rough understanding of what might happen in order to create this project charter. 5 to 6 activities, major activities that you would do to create this project charter. After that, you will have your own skills of managing the team, of critical thinking, of logical reasoning, of problem solving. You will utilize those skills and ensure that whatever activities team members are carrying out, they are carrying out in the best way possible. Right? Now, activities, similar activities can be combined together as a process. You can combine similar processes given a particular performance domain. Right? So, for example, if we are talking about scope as a performance domain, right? So, identifying the requirements could be one process. Developing the scope could be one process. Validating the scope with the customer could be another process. Right? And there could be 5 to 6 processes in every performance domain, which can be combined together. So basically, the whole idea is that first, what is happening around the world? What are the best practices people are following? Combine it all together and see which are similar activities that can be put together as a process. You will have multiple processes. So PMBOK 8 talks about 40 processes. Then combine these processes together given a particular area. For example, what are the processes associated with scope, processes associated with schedule, finance, this and that, right? So you will be able to combine these 40 processes into 7 performance domains. That's what performance domain basically is. It's a way of looking at project and understanding what are those areas of focus which can help us in managing the projects better, right? And these performance domain, as you would already know, are not independent. They are interdependent, which means if you're talking about scope, you cannot focus only on scope. You have to think about schedule as well. You have to think about finance as well. You have to think about risk. So all these 7 performance domains are interrelated. They interact with one another. Change the scope, schedule will change. Change the scope, cost will change. Risk added to the project, schedule and cost might change. Resources absent in the project, schedule and cost will change. Right? So these performance domains are very interrelated. They interact with one another, they are related to one another, and they are interdependent. One thing changes, the other thing will also change. And they work together in order to ensure that you achieve the desired results. So basically, performance domains are project management areas that you should be aware of. You should be aware of what it is and how do they interact with one another. That's what performance domain is. Basically, if you understand what these areas are, you will be able to perform better. That's why these are called performance domain. The first one of all is governance performance domain. As we discussed, governance is basically about a framework that we must follow. Right? Every project is unique, every organization is unique. You are working in a particular organization, they have their own framework. Whatever you study in Scrum, whatever you study from PMBOK, whatever you study from PMP, will give you an idea of what the best practices are. But none of the organization would follow exactly 100% whatever is written there. It's not possible, right? Because people have their own way of working. They are working in a particular industry. They understand their customer better. They understand their industry better. Nobody can tell them that this is exactly what you should do. Or in fact, no one book or no one course can tell you this is exactly what you can do. You can learn from that. You can learn from those books, you can learn from those courses about the best practices, develop the skills needed, and customize your work accordingly. Right? So every organization is unique. They will have their own framework of authority, of decision making, of oversight, and accountability so that you can align the project with organizational strategy, policy, and objectives. Basically, saying that there needs to be a structure, a framework, right? You can talk about escalation metrics. You can talk about team members' authority. You can talk about who will take what type of decisions. You can talk about who will be overseeing the entire project. You can talk about who will be accountable for the project, how it will be done. There will be some policies that you have to follow, right? How much ever you try to convince your management that we should work for only 4 days a week. If the organization's policy is to your work for 5 days a week, 6 days a week, you will have to work. Right. So every project happens within a framework of the organization. How does your project interact with these frameworks? You should be able to understand it well, and you should be able to plan that interaction in the best way possible. That's what governance talks about. Governance talks about the interaction of the project with the organization so that the project can be aligned. Okay, you cannot align the organization. You cannot change the organization. You can make some suggestions, but you cannot change whatever is already there in the organization. So, what do you align? You align the project. You make changes in the project so that you can align it with the organization strategy, policies, and value objectives. So, basically, you learn the best practices from PMP training. You learn from these trainings and courses in the book, and then understand what you need to change in your project so that it can be aligned to the organization. That's what governance is all about. Okay. Why is it so important to have governance? If there is no governance, how would you know what is to be done in the project? Will it be beneficial for your organization or not? Right? How will you tell a new person who is joining your project what are the policies? How should they work? What is the accepted behavior in this project? What is not an acceptable behavior in this project? Right? So if the governance is missing, the structure in the project will also be missing. And it will more like a haphazard way of somehow trying to manage the project. So it will not be called project management, it will be project somehow management. Right? Somehow we are able to manage the project. That's why we need governance. We need governance so that we can manage the project in an organized way, in a well tested way. Right? But it is not something which is fixed and will not change. Yes, it is very difficult to change the organization strategy and structure and everything, right? But it can be changed. If you think that something needs to be changed, you can always talk to your management and tell them, this is what I've seen in the projects, and we need to change our policies accordingly. It can be done. Although we need to follow whatever is there as a part of organization in the governance, but we can also make some suggestions to make changes in the governance part, right? So why is governance so important? First, it helps align the project with the business objectives, right? Any project that is done in the organization, it is done to meet the business objectives, right? If it is not meeting the objectives, you will not do the project. Why will the organization spend money, spend time in doing something which will not help the organization, right? So because we are managing the project to help the organization, we must align the project to the organization's governance as well. Second, once you know who will take what type of decisions, who is accountable for what, you will see that decisions are made by the right authority at the right time. And you need decisions in the project. Lot of decisions. There will be problems, there will be issues, there will be changes, and you will need to take those decisions quickly. If you have a good governance set up in the project, you will see that decisions are faster. Otherwise, what will happen? You have sent an email to the management, they are taking their own sweet time to approve something. When you go and talk to them, hey, you have not approved it yet, they tell you that, okay, I'm not authorized for this. And then you realize, okay, who is the authority then? Then they will say, okay, you go and talk to that person. You go and talk to that person, they'll say, okay, I'm not authorized alone. Yes, I can help you with bits and parts of it, but we need to come together as a team, 4 or 5 people. What will happen? You will keep running from pillar to post, figuring out who should approve this, who should take decisions. And it happens a lot. Right? And hence, good governance is very, very important in project. You have to have frameworks. You need to know who can take the decisions. They should be aware that they have to take the decisions, and hence your understanding of this domain becomes important. Second, risks, compliances, performance are visible and controlled. When you manage something in a structured way, you know what you are expecting, you know how to handle things, and you also know how to check whether you are meeting the requirements or not. Right? So good governance helps in that. You can also ensure that resources are invested only when continued business justification exists. Many a times what happens is you have started a project and midway through the project you realize that this is not something that we want to do. Like, this is not helping the organization. Right? Because initially when the project was started, nobody thought about why we are doing the project, how it will help. They did not create the business case probably. They did not create the benefits management plan probably. And later, midway through the project, they realized that something is wrong. Okay, so these type of issues can be avoided if governance is done properly in the project. Right? This is why governance is important. What happens? What do we need to do when we are trying to understand governance? Right? So what type of activities generally happen when we talk about governance domain? It will help you in understanding governance better. Right? So first is to build that model. Right? Model is nothing but a structure. What are the roles in the project? What are the authorities in the project? What are the escalation metrics like? Right? So we create that structure first. Right? We do have all these things, right? Somebody would be a CEO, then we'll have a project sponsor, then sponsor would be responsible for multiple projects, then we'll have project manager one, project manager two. Now this project manager will have their own team, this project manager will have their own team, right? So we create these kind of escalation metrics in every organization. This should be ready, this should be available, and this should be customized for our project. The roles, authorities, escalation paths. Right? You should also know what type of stages and phases would be there in the project. For example, if you are constructing a building of 100 floors, you may not want to focus on all the 100 floors together. You will say, we'll do 10 floors at a time, 5 floors at a time, or maybe 1 floor at a time. We'll finish the work, then we'll move up to second, then we'll move to third. It all depends on what type of resources, money, and time you have available. Right? So you divide your projects into multiple phases. Right? And you establish when can we move to next phase. That is why it is called phase gate or stage gate. At the gate, which is at the end of the phase, you're asking, can I move to the next phase? Is this first phase complete in all respect? Have we achieved everything that we wanted to achieve from this phase? For example, let's say we are going 10 floors at a time. So are these 10 floors exactly complete as per the requirement? If yes, only then I'll move to 11th floor or 11 to 20 floors in the second phase. If not, I'll still be working on 10 floors. I'll finish it. I'll get an acceptance from the customer. Then I'll move to next phase. So you will be writing down all these phase reviews point, phase gate points that, okay, this checklist must be checked for us to move from phase 1 to phase 2. It's a part of your governance. Right. Approving the business case, project charter, and baseline plans is also a part of your governance. A business case happens even before the project starts. Project charter is your first project document, which talks about why we are doing the project, what are we trying to achieve. Baseline is your plan, how we are going to achieve. Right? So business case basically talks about why, what are the benefits and everything. Project charter just explains it in further from the project's context, and you try to understand why we are doing the project and what the project is majorly. Then the baseline will tell you how you are going to ensure that whatever the objective with which we are starting the project is met as well. Right? So who will approve that, who will create it, will be a part of your governance. Then monitoring the performance using the formal metrics. In your baseline plans, you will mention what type of performance would indicate a success for the project. Right? While the team is doing the work, you will be monitoring. Monitoring means observation. You will be testing. Is everything as per the requirements or not? You'll also be ensuring the compliance with organization's policies and standards. HR policies, safety policy, finance policies, all those policies must be ensured, must be adhered to. Right? That is also a part of governance. Then making some go or no go decisions at key milestone. Just like at the stage gate, you're taking a decision. Should we go to the next phase or not? Right? You have decided your own milestones. Milestones are decided by you. You can have 3, 5, 10, 15 milestones in a project, and you will take the decision. Again, the same thing will happen. A checklist will be created, which you will check to ensure that yes, design is done, execution is done, monitoring is done, customer has accepted this. Now we can move to next milestone. Right? That will be a part of your governance, and overseeing the change control and issue escalation is also a part of governance. Like when the change happens, what will be done? Right? So who can raise a change request? Who needs to review it? Who needs to analyze it? How will it be discussed with the change control board? Right? Will be a part of governance. Then issue escalation. When a problem happens, what will happen first? You will enter into the issue log. Then what will happen? You will look for root cause, why the problem happened. Then you will try to find a solution. Then you will try to discuss the solution with somebody who can approve that. Then you will need to implement the solution. Then you will need to check whether the implementation was successful or not. And then you need to document it. Right? So every organization has their own change management system and problem management systems. Right? You need to ensure that you have understood it and built that for your project, customized it for your project. And we discussed problem solving, we have discussed change control during our trainings, right? So what we discuss, what we learn is the general best practices, which will of course will be tested in the exam. But for your organization, you will create your own change control process, because for your organization, you will mention the names. This person will analyze the change request. This person will approve the change request. These people will approve the change request. If it is not resolved within 7 days, this is how it will be escalated. So decision must be taken within 24 hours of the change request, right? So you will be very, very specific about how you will manage these changes and problems. You will mention the name, the timelines, and other parts. What we learn during the training is a general understanding that yes, changes should be managed, request, analysis, check the report, talk to change control board, they'll approve it, implement the change, check whether implementation was proper or not, right? So during our training, we learn the regular things. For your project, you will decide the exact things of how it is going to happen in detail that will be created in your project. Okay, so these are the activities that you carry out during governance, or these are activities that is a part of project governance. Okay. I can see some questions, so let me quickly check the chat box. Execution and monitoring will be done in parallel. Yes, it can happen, and it should happen. See, whenever you are carrying out a work, let us say that in project management, you are constructing a building, right? You are working on the flooring, right? You are putting the tiles. Your team is putting the tiles. While they are putting the tiles, you're also checking whether it is leveled or not, right? So while the first tile was placed, you can check whether it was leveled or not. Then second, then third. Then one row is complete. You check whether it is leveled or not. So while you are doing the work, you're also observing whether it is being done properly or not. Then once the team places all the tiles on the floor, then you check whether the complete work was also properly done as per the requirement or not. If you find any variation, then you try to control it. Then you try to make some changes to ensure that it is exactly as per the requirement. Okay. So answer to your question, execution and monitoring will be done in parallel. Yes, you'll do the work and you'll also be monitoring it. So it runs in parallel most of the times. Is it clear, Sonam? Any question?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. One more question, Amit.
Yeah,
So
please.
you mentioned here the last point, making go, no go decisions at key milestones.
Mhm.
Uh, it will be decided, you mentioned that it will be decided by you. You means as a project manager or the delivery team or
Project manager and the team, whatever decisions that you take,
hmm,
okay, these are decided by discussed,
hmm,
okay, and then decided. We talk about participatory decision making, right?
hmm,
So there will be some group of members. You will be there, you as a project manager. Then senior team members, some of the senior team members will be there. You together will decide, discuss that this is what the milestone should be. Then you'll discuss with the sponsor, you'll discuss with the customer. You already know their requirements. You will align your discussions with them and then seek from some approval from them. This is what we have discussed, that we will have 7 milestones in this project from M1 to M7. Are you okay with this?
hmm.
So whatever the team discusses and they decide, they always get it verified and approved by somebody. Right? So when I say you, I mean to say you, project manager, and the team together.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
perfect. No problems. Yes, Tarana, question, please.
I just have a follow-up question on the same point that you were just explaining. So you
Thanks.
said that the project manager which will have a discussion with the team, and then they will take the decision. So
Always.
how do we draw a line while solving questions that whether it's an adaptive approach or traditional? Because in both it's like the project manager helps the team to take decision. Is
Yeah.
it like the difference is only in this way that in adaptive they will be like in agile they will be helping team take decision with that discussion, but here they will discuss with the team in traditional approach, but then they will take the decision themselves. When I say
Mhm.
they, I mean the project
Understood.
managers.
Understood. Understood. Now, this is a very, very important point. Okay. And this needs to be clear for everyone to be able to answer the questions correctly. The answer to this question is you don't have to draw a line between traditional and agile approach. Okay. Approach is basically the way you work in the project. Okay. And that is decided by your anticipation of clarity of the project. If you are clear about the project, you would go with traditional approach. If you think that scope will keep on changing, you will go with adaptive approach. Okay, so the approach that we talk about is basically on the processes, is on the activities. Okay, so traditional approach, you will say, okay, these are the 40 processes that we will follow one after the other. This is what we will do, and this is how we are going to do it. A lot of documentation, a lot of structure, a lot of processes. Why? Because I'm very clear about the project. I know exactly this is needed, maybe with 5-10% changes, but I can anticipate the entire project. I can visualize, I can create a drawing, I can create a video, right? I can create a 3D model of what I'm building. So I have complete clarity on the project. I can decide my structure, I can decide my process, and this is how I will follow. Right? That is what is called approach. When we talk about agile, however, because my scope itself is not clear, so whatever I create as a 3D model or as a drawing is incomplete. There will be something more that will be added to the product. Okay. Hence, we are saying that we will not be committing to the entire project. We'll commit to whatever is clear to us. And then we'll take it step by step. I'll deliver whatever is ready. I'll get a feedback from them. And then I'll build the second thing. I'll again take a feedback. I'll build third thing. Feedback, building, feedback, building. That's how I'm going to approach my project when things are not clear. And because I'm basing my progress on the feedback that I receive, hence I'm calling it an adaptive approach. So I'm saying that my things are not clear. I'll deliver something. I'll take a feedback. Whatever your feedback says, that will decide what next thing I'll build. So I will adapt to your changing requirements. That's why we are calling it adaptive approach. Predictive, because I can think of the entire product. I can predict what might happen in the project. And hence I'll plan for everything because I can predict. That's why it is called predictive approach. Right? The answer to your question is that the approach is basically on the processes part. How you handle team, how you take decisions, how you solve problems. Should you include team members in the discussion or not? These are part of people domain. Okay. Handling people is almost same in predictive or adaptive approach. Right? So should you involve team for taking decisions in predictive? Yes. Should you involve team in taking decisions for in adaptive approach? Yes. What will be changing? In predictive, maybe you are involving team for thinking about the end of the project also. But in adaptive, you are focusing on one thing at a time. So you are still involving team members, but your commitment is not for the entire project. It's for one user story, one feature. While in traditional, you may be involving team members to think about what you will do 6 months later. Right. So traditional approach changes because your commitment is for the entire project. So you may be having discussions for things that might happen 6 months later, or 1 year later, or 2 years later. But in Agile, it will never be that. At max, you'll be thinking about 2 weeks later because you are working with one thing at a time. Right. So the way you handle the team, the way you handle the, again, I mean, handling is not a good word, but the way you engage the team members, the way you lead the team, the way you build the team, the way you engage the stakeholders remain exactly same for traditional and agile approach. Right. So in short, the way I will interact with people is going to remain same. The way product managers interact with people is going to remain same for traditional and agile. The process will change. The approach will change. What I'm looking at will change. My commitment will change. Okay, but not my interaction. Is it clear, Tarana?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much
Right.
for that explanation. Yeah.
Perfect. So we don't have to necessarily draw a line saying that this is traditional and this is agile in people. Process, yes, we can do that. Perfect. Great. Any other question, anyone? Anything in mind before we move ahead? Right. So these are general activities. General activities, the reason I mention it as general activities is for your visualization. Okay. PMI talks about processes. Right? So in governance, they talk about processes like initiate the project or phase. This is where you create the project charter. Right? You're looking at the entire project, why we are doing it, how we are going, what would be the project more like, right? At a summary level. Then the next process is integrate and align the project plans. As you can see, it's about governance. So you are saying that somebody has created a scope management plan. Someone is working on risk management plan. Somebody is working on schedule. Somebody is working on the budget. These are all interact together. So governance is where you integrate all your subsidiary project plans. Right? Another process in governance is plan the sourcing strategy. In project, many a times you will need something from outside. You cannot build everything inside. If you're constructing a building, maybe you can construct the building, but the TV, the electronics, the AC, the furniture that you will need, you will have to purchase from outside. Right? In software, maybe you have a team which can build many things, but if you also need some machine learning models, if you also need some AI models, you may need help from somebody outside as well. Right? So whenever you are coordinating with a third party, right? What is a third party? First party is customer, second party is us, third party is everybody outside. Right? So whenever you need a vendor, a supplier, that is a third party. Right? So you will build a strategy. How are you going to deal with those suppliers and vendors? That's the process of planning sourcing strategy. Right? Another process is manage project execution. Right? As you can see, we are not talking about one thing at a time. We're talking about the entire execution. How are we going to do that? Part of governance. Right? Then manage quality assurance. Ensure that whatever quality is expected in the project, we are able to meet that. Then manage project knowledge. Every project you will have data coming out of it. You should be able to learn from it. Data like how much time it took take to complete this work, how much time it took to resolve this problem, how much time was taken to handle those risks, what type of risk happened, what type of issues happened, what type of changes happened. These are all knowledge in the project. Right? And when you understand that problem resolution time is going down, problems that we are receiving is going up, you gain some knowledge out of it. And then you try to handle the project, manage the project. Right? That is the part of managing project knowledge. Data that you gathered must be recorded well, must be converted into insights. Insights must be converted into actions. That's a part of your managing project knowledge. Then monitoring and controlling the entire project performance. Right? As you can see, whenever we talk about governance, we are talking about the complete project, the complete project framework. Right? Integrating all the plans, managing the complete execution, monitoring the complete project performance. We're not talking about one performance or one plan or one execution task. Complete project. Right? It also includes assessing and implementing changes. How do you handle changes in the project? Right? And finally, how do you close the project as well? Whenever you talk about project, you can also talk about phase, because phase is nothing but a mini project. From start to end, you have to manage it accordingly. Right? So these are the 9 processes that PMI talks about in governance performance domain. Right? You don't have to memorize the sequence. Please don't do that. You don't have to memorize all the 9 processes. It's a waste of time. Nobody will ever ask you, not nor in PMP, neither in interviews, nowhere it will be discussed. But you should know what it is. Right? When you look at this project name, you should not feel, oh, I don't know this. What is this? Right? That should not be the feeling. Your feeling should be, okay, I understand what changes are. I understand how we can assess the changes. I understand how we can implement the changes. You should be able to create a mental picture of all these processes. However, if you are not clear about anything, you should definitely read about it or let me know. We'll set up a 5-10 minutes call and I'll explain that to you. Right? So whenever you look at these processes, you should know what it is. You should be able to explain it to somebody for a minute or two that this is how we will do it. Right? If you can do that, which means you have understood the processes well. Right? So these are the processes that PMI talks about. It's important to know officially also what do they call it. Generally, if you understand, you will be able to answer the questions in the exam. So what will happen in the exam? See, whenever you are answering question related to governance in the exam, there are a few things that you should keep in mind. Okay. First is that governance is not project control. It's an organizational oversight. We are not trying to control the project. Okay. Management has not built this framework so that they can tell you this is exactly what you have to do. But with a mindset that, okay, I want to have a look at what is happening in the project. I'm not trying to control it. I'm just trying to ensure that you are doing it properly. So management is looking at it so that they can help you. Okay, very important mindset to have. They have not created the governance, they have not created the structure, they have not created the policy so that they can control what you do. They just want to have a look at what you are doing so that they can find out gaps and they can help you. Always think from that perspective. That governance is for oversight. Oversight is a word of oversee things, right? So the management would be overseeing, which means they will be standing at the top and they'll be having a look how things are happening, so that if they find a gap, they can help. Right? Of course, there are different organizations, different culture, and everything where people want to control, but that's not what we are talking about. We are talking about the overseeing of things so that the management can identify the gaps and help you bridge those gaps. Next, project manager operates within the governance framework, does not create authority. Project manager does not create authority. Authority is decided by the management. Okay, we understand that framework. We as project managers, we understand that framework and decide accordingly. So we make changes in the project to align to the organization's framework, not the other way around. We don't change the organization for to suit our project. We change our project to suit the organization. Right? In priority projects specifically, expect formal approvals, not informal agreements. If the question is talking about informal agreement that you discussed with the customer, you discussed with the management, you discussed with the functional manager, it must be followed up with a document, with a written agreement. Right? So we are looking for formal approvals. So there will be a question in the exam where they'll say that there was a discussion and you carried out the work, and then later you realize that the person with whom you had a discussion is no longer available in the office. They have left the organization. What could have been done better? Right? One of the options would be that you should have followed it up with different type of communication, which is in written. Right? So ensure that formal approvals are needed, specifically in priority projects. In adaptive, we give a little bit more freedom to the team. Right? In traditional approach, in priority approach, little bit less freedom. Okay, and hence formal approvals are important. Changes go through integrated change control. One thing you change in a traditional approach project, and because you are committed to the entire project might fail. Hence, every single change must go through integrated change control. You should have a good understanding of what integrated change control is. If you don't understand it, write it down, put it on the chat box that I don't understand it. We'll have a separate session, or I'll send you a separate video of that. Right? But you should have a good understanding of this. Phase exits require management approval. In projects, you may decide that we will manage this project through multiple phases. Once you go from one phase to another phase, it is called phase exit. You are exiting that phase. Right? You must take approvals for that. Now, who will approve this? It will be already mentioned. Right? So whenever you are creating the project governance data, it will already be mentioned that who will be that person who will be approving, or whom we need to talk to, whom we need to show the reports, whom we need to show the product before we can move from one phase to another. But it must be approved, only then we can go to the next phase. Right? If a question is talking about strategic alignment, escalation, funding approval, compliance, think about governance. Right? The minute it has gone beyond your project, right? As you can see, strategic alignment is for the organization. Escalation means above project manager. Funding approval, who will provide the funding? The sponsors. Compliance, who talks about compliance? The government, the organization's management. Right? So the minute it has gone beyond the project, we are talking about governance. And our duty, our mindset is that we need to align our project to suit the organization's framework. Every project must be aligned to the organization's governance framework. We cannot take a decision on our own. We cannot decide to change the governance patterns. Right? We have to take approvals. We have to go through formal discussions to be able to do that. Right? Keep these things in mind. It will help you in answering the exam questions. Right? Government decisions are typically made outside the project team. Is it clear, everybody? Are we good with governance?
Yes, Amit.
Yeah. So, looking at the time constraint, I think we are already exceeding the time. So, we will not be able to finish the scope. What I will do is, okay, I'll send you some more documents, okay, for you to go through in terms of governance. So when you talk about frameworks, what does it look like? What role does PMO play? What would be the functional managers and other part? So I'll give you some roles and responsibilities. I'll give you some structure, a sample example, okay, for you to go through today or tomorrow whenever you have time before you meet tomorrow. And then when we meet tomorrow, we'll discuss about scope, schedule, and if possible, we'll discuss about finance also. Okay, but within this four days, we'll be completing all the 7 performance domains. Is that okay, everyone? Project
Okay,
audit
Amit.
is a part of governance. Yes, it is. Right. So whenever you are talking about the project as a whole, and you're talking about project in relation with the organization, it's always a part of governance. Right. So what we'll do now is I'll be sharing you some write-ups on the governance parts to help you understand a little bit more. You already have that 100-page document in which we have talked about all these processes that we discussed. Right. So you can go through that document also, and every process I have discussed briefly in 2 pages. Right. So there will be 18 pages that you can go through, and you will understand these processes well. I'll send you some sample also of how the structure might look like. What role does a different organization structure play in your project, so that you have a quick review of it, and then tomorrow we'll meet for scope. Is this helpful, everybody, in revising, recollecting few things, and understanding the importance for the exam part? Yeah,
Yes.
all the sessions will be recorded,
Yes, Amit.
and yeah, all the sessions will be recorded and will be shared with all of you. If at all you miss any session, you can go through the recordings. Don't try to miss the sessions. Live just helps in the discussion a little bit better, and you get an opportunity to ask the questions real time. Okay, so try to attend all the sessions. I'll also try to complete all the sessions. Okay,
Yes, hi.
and
Yeah,
then this week will be
great
traditional.
hiding.
Next week will be Ajay. Yeah, Bernard, you were saying something. Please go ahead. No. No life. Anything? Anybody? You want to share something before we close the day?
Hi Amit, have you went through our scores like
Yeah,
exam score?
I've gone through the test. I've gone through the scores, and I am creating a set of revision, which we will do after we complete all the governance domains.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So during these discussions, I will put in those points of the mistakes that people have made, which will help you understand, and then we'll have a separate session as well.
Yeah, sure.
No problems. All right, then. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you tomorrow.